A Green Witch's Tale. She was different. Her parents knew that ever since she was just a little girl. They lived in the outskirts of the village, in a small cottage. They didn't have a lot of money, but they were a loving, happy family. Her father was working as a carpenter. He was going from house to house and shop to shop when something needed fixing. Her mother was taking care of the child, the household, and their small garden, growing vegetables and herbs. She was the one that first noticed the little girl's weird behavior. When she could only walk, she was out in the garden all day long. At first, her mother thought that the child was following her and didn't find that unusual. But when she became 4, 5, 6 years old, things changed. Not only she was out in the garden all the time, but she was acting in a strange way. She would water the plants, she was digging the soil to plant new herbs, she was gathering leaves and drying them in the kitchen. She was looking at them and at times even talking to them. Her mother was watching with a strange feeling in her heart. But after she talked to her father, they both decided to leave her free, to give her space to do what she wanted. When time came, she went to school. Her mother had made for her with scraps of clothes the most beautiful dresses to wear. All of them were green. She wouldn't wear another color. But things at school were hard for her. She wasn't paying attention to the teacher. Her eyes were always wandering outside the window, looking at nature. Sometimes, if she was seeing something that she would find interesting, she would just walk out the classroom, leaving her teacher screaming. In the schoolyard, there were many different flowers, and she would gather some to take home with her. When she was going back into the classroom, her dress, or even her face, had stains from the soil. She didn't mind, but the other children used to call her Mud Face, and they were laughing at her. She would look, listen, but never say a word. She was broken-hearted inside, but she was also determined to move on, doing what she wanted to do. By the time she was 13 years old, half the kitchen was taken over by racks of drying herbs, jars full of all kinds of spices, potions, balms, oils infused with sage, chamomile, lavender, and everything one can imagine. As soon as she was coming home from school, she would run to take her secret book. She was writing about each plant in detail, and she was not showing it to anyone. All the information she had gathered over the years was in that book that was becoming bigger and bigger each day. But she had another little secret she had not told to anyone as well. Sometimes, now and then, she would get this strange feeling in her fingers. It was like they were numb and like they were tickling her at the same time. She knew that she had to go out and gather, take care, water, or talk to her plants. Afraid that no one would believe her, she kept that feeling to herself. One day, when she came home from school, she found her mother crying. Her father was lying on the bed, burning with fever and coughing all the time. The doctor examined him and gave them the medicines he had to receive. For days they followed his advice, but he was not getting any better. Trying to hide the tears in her eyes, she went into the kitchen with her book of herbs and spices. She gathered all the ingredients she felt in her heart were necessary and started creating herbal teas, anointment oils, and magical potions. She was working on the recipes all night long. The next day, she said to her mother that it was time to allow her to practice her craft. She didn't accept right away. She was very skeptical, but that did not stop the girl. She started giving her father blends of different herbal teas. She prepared a bath full of flowers and plants for him. She was putting her oils and balms on his burning head and the back of his palms. 2 days later, the coughing had stopped, the fever was gone, and her beloved father would not believe what had happened. He took her into his arms and whispered, "Thank you, and I love you." She needed nothing else. However, in small places, or even bigger ones, news traveled fast. Before she knew it, the entire village knew what had happened. The doctor and the priest were furious. Other people were interested, while some called her a witch. In fact, it was one of the classmates that were bullying her who referred to her as the Green Witch. Despite the negative reactions, there were some who had a different opinion, but would not dare to say it out loud. So one night, when they were all asleep, they heard someone knocking on the door. Her father opened with a feeling of fear, only to see a young woman holding her child in her arms. She was asking for help. "I'm looking for the Green Witch," she said. At first, the girl's father did not understand, but then she appeared, calmed and focused, and nothing else had to be said. She took gently the child in her hands, felt his energy as the little boy stopped crying and was looking at her mesmerized. "Everything is going to be all right," she said with her soft voice. And a few hours later, the child was healed. Her potions and herbs had worked once again. His mother was now crying tears of joy and wanted to pay her. She refused. That was just the beginning. The days turned into months, and months turned into years. The word was spreading. People knew that a woman who lived in a humble cottage could help those in need, and she was asking nothing in return. Even the doctor understood that magic was a part of her practice, but knowledge and deep understanding of the healing properties of what Mother Nature had to offer were the bigger part of what she was doing. So many times, when he couldn't heal a patient or didn't understand what was wrong, he would send them to her. Even after the passing of her parents, she stayed in the cottage and continued helping people to the best of her abilities, without ever asking for anything in return. If you happen to pass by those places, and if you are ever in need, or not, she will be there for you. She doesn't feel special. She knows that she's only a creature lucky enough to live close to nature and understand, respect, and protect her. A hot herbal tea will always be waiting for you to give you some rest from your journey. Take a sip.